Good evening. It's Thursday, the 23rd of July 2026.
Tonight on the Nightly Business Report.
Filling the gaps. The government's lack of enforcement of existing import regulations come under fire upon renewed discussions of malicious trade activity within the country.
Port City in focus. Deputy Minister of Finance and Planning Dr.Anil Jayantha Fernando addresses concerns regarding the ownership and investment of the Colombo Port City project.
Persons or entities who obtain land within Colombo Port City do not acquire freehold ownership of land.
Still climbing. Crude indices see steep rallying activity following continued tensions in the Middle East, with the barrel climbing towards $100.
And marine matters. Sri Lanka's maritime position and infrastructural strengths are assessed on a global context, with a focus on the increasing vulnerabilities of the currently existing system.
The other states such as Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Myanmar lack the resources for anything close to this kind of infrastructure.
From Studio 24C, this is the Nightly Business Report with Prasansa Gunawardana and Vinuthwarna Surya.
Thank you for joining us with the Nightly Business Report.
Chairman of the Committee on Public Finance, Parliamentarian Dr. Harsha De Silva says the authorities should ensure already enacted laws are properly enforced without bringing in new laws one after another.
He said this speaking in Parliament today when the new import-export regulations under the Imports and Exports Act was taken up for debate.
The new regulations have been brought in to monitor outward remittances and prevent currency misuse. Under this, the importers making advance payments must register with Sri Lanka Customs, while banks must assign unique transaction numbers and report all detailed payment data to Customs. Dr. De Silva pointed out that fraudsters misuse the gaps in existing laws as a result of lacking in coordination among Sri Lanka Customs, banks and Import-Export Department of the Finance Ministry. The MP said that the Financial Intelligence Unit had provided actionable intelligence since 2021 on suspected trade-based money laundering incidents and added that no action has been taken against anybody. He noted that police investigations on alleged siphoning off of over $700 million in guise of importing have revealed that certain banks are also not adhering to regulations, and at certain instances, banks have just put a dot where taxpayer identification numbers should have been mentioned when transferring foreign currency.
Deputy Finance Minister Dr. Anil Jayantha Fernando says no individual or entity can obtain freehold ownership of land within Colombo Port City.
He emphasized in Parliament today that all land allocations are made strictly on a leasehold basis under the Colombo Port City Economic Commission Act.
Responding to a question raised by MP Ravi Karunanaika, the Deputy Minister outlined the legal framework governing land ownership and lease arrangements within the Colombo Port City.
The lessee hold the land on a leasehold basis for a term up to 99 years. Upon the expiry of the lease term, the lessee is required to yield vacant and peaceful possession of the development site together with any buildings, fixtures and fittings remaining thereon to the lessor, and the relevant transaction documents shall be surrendered and vest in the Colombo Port City Economic Commission in accordance with the terms of the applicable indenture of the lease. There are no legal provisions for automatic renewal or preferential automatic renewal. The lease shall be valid only for a period of 99 years.
Meanwhile, Deputy Finance Minister Dr. Anil Jayantha Fernando said Colombo Port City has so far attracted investments worth over $2 billion.
Investment committed for 5 years is 2.1 billion. Expected employment generation is proposed manpower for year 1, 14,335, and number of employment opportunities as of December 2025, 9,871. And there are 176 companies under 4 categories. Colombo Port City presents a unique opportunity for Sri Lanka to position itself as a globally competitive investment destination by offering what investors value most: stability, efficiency, transparency, and predictability.
Meanwhile, speaking on import restriction measures, the Deputy Minister revealed that the vehicle imports have reduced remarkably after the imposition of the 50% surcharge on vehicle imports. He said that the average value of letters of credit opened for vehicle imports for the first 6 months of 2026 was at $3.5 million. He added LC value for vehicle imports was at $1.8 million on July 20th and $1.9 million on July 21st.
Global oil prices have climbed to their highest level in more than a month as concerns over supply disruptions intensify amid rising tensions in the Middle East.
Brent crude futures surged to $98.76 a barrel, gaining 4.9%, marking a fifth consecutive session of gains and reaching their highest level since early June.
Meanwhile, U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude also advanced, rising above $90 a barrel as markets reacted to fears that disruptions could spread beyond the Strait of Hormuz. The latest surge came after Yemen's Houthi movement claimed attacks on the two Saudi oil tankers in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, raising concerns over another key shipping route for global energy supplies. Goldman Sachs estimates that nearly 9 million barrels per day of oil flows through the Bab el-Mandeb route, with a significant portion difficult to reroute if multiple supply choke points are affected. Analysts warn that continued tensions around the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical oil transit routes, could keep prices elevated in the coming weeks. Markets are also watching diesel supply closely as European diesel margins hit record levels amid disruptions to Russian exports and growing Middle East supply risk.
The Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment has set a target of securing overseas employment opportunities to 250,000 Sri Lankans during 2026. The Bureau said these job opportunities will be facilitated to the Sri Lankan government and recruitment agencies registered with the SLBFE.
Although the ongoing conflict in the Middle East has led to a slight decline in the number of Sri Lankans seeking overseas employment, the Bureau is taking steps to direct workers towards higher-paying jobs in safer destinations. Accordingly, 143,087 Sri Lankans have left for overseas employment so far this year. Of them, 92,590 are male workers, while 50,497 are female workers. Meanwhile, the SLBFE plans to deploy 14,000 Sri Lankan workers to Israel, one of the most popular destinations among Sri Lankan migrant workers. So far, 7,873 workers have departed for employment in Israel. The Bureau also expects to send 8,000 workers to South Korea, with 4,794 workers having already left for employment there. According to SLBFE data, 73,623 Sri Lankans have migrated for skilled employment so far in 2026, while 69,494 workers have departed for unskilled jobs. Meanwhile, Sri Lankan migrant workers remitted $4.6 billion to the country during the first 6 months of 2026, from January to June.
Heading into a short commercial break, more business updates on the other side.
This is the Nightly Business Report.
Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report.
A new policy study has warned that the Bay of Bengal faces growing maritime security challenges and called for stronger regional cooperation through BIMSTEC to address emerging threats, including cyber attacks, transnational crime and technological vulnerabilities.
The study launched by the Regional Center for Strategic Studies highlights the increasing vulnerability of undersea communication cables, warning that damage to the critical infrastructure could disrupt global internet connectivity and maritime communication across the region.
It also notes a widening technological gap in maritime surveillance among Bay of Bengal countries. India has significantly strengthened its maritime domain awareness through investments in satellite surveillance, coastal radar systems, and artificial intelligence, while countries such as Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Myanmar continue to face resource and capability constraints. Despite having the appropriate regional framework, the report says BIMSTEC lacks the operational capacity needed to respond effectively to emerging emerging maritime threats. It points to the absence of a regional maritime intelligence fusion center, standing joint maritime patrols, robust intelligence sharing mechanisms, and coordinated cyber cooperation, while noting that implementation of existing initiatives has remained slow despite growing security risks. Shayan Piris, Research and Program Officer at RCSS, says in order to strengthen regional maritime security, 6 priority measures are recommended.
Because everything we are proposing, fusion centers, the legal frameworks, the satellite networks, is a top-down state-level intervention, but none of it works without the buy-in from the people who actually live in the region and depend on the water for their livelihoods. If they don't trust the institutions asking them to report what they see, or if reporting threatens their own livelihoods, a lot of fishermen in the region also participate in a lot of these transnational crimes to kind of supplement their own livelihoods. So if these are ambiguous, because if informal fishing is what's keeping food on their table, then you need to find alternative livelihood sources, etc., to kind of, and you need to get everybody on board for this. So we kind of propose some sort of intersectoral council that unifies security, economic, and environmental policy.
Meanwhile, the Foreign Minister Vijay Thehera met with US Ambassador to India and Special Envoy for South and Central Asia Sergio Gore, where discussions focused on strengthening US-Sri Lanka cooperation, particularly in maritime security, and developing stable economic corridors in the Indian Ocean. Ambassador Gore said that the meeting addressed ways to enhance US-Sri Lanka ties in areas including maritime security and the development of stable economic corridors in the Indian Ocean. He further stated that the United States remain committed to working with regional partners to promote stability and security in the region.
RP Jayantha Rajapaksa has been appointed to serve as the Director General of the Merchant Shipping Secretariat on a 6-month contract basis. The official appointment letter was handed over at the Ministry of Ports and Civil Aviation under the patronage of Deputy Minister Janitharuwan Kodiduwakku and Ministry Secretary WWS Mangala.
Jayantha Rajapaksa is a chief marine engineer with extensive experience in ocean voyages and maritime services, and as an examiner for professional examinations for marine engineers. He officially assumed duties today at the Merchant Shipping Secretariat premises in Maritime, Colombo. Addressing senior officials, the newly appointed Director General called for their full cooperation in ensuring that the Secretariat delivers more efficient, quality and transparent services to the public. He also pledged to continue his extensive academic and regulatory experience to the further development of Sri Lanka's merchant shipping sector.
The Consumer Affairs Authority has issued a clarification on the maximum charges applicable for key medical laboratory tests, following reports of a private hospital in Jaffna charging above the prescribed fee for the full blood count test.
The public are urged to maintain vigilance on extortionate prices measures at private healthcare institutions.
According to the CAA statement, under Order Number 67, issued in terms of Section 20 of the Consumer Affairs Authority Act No. 9 of 2003, the maximum charges are full blood count test, 400 rupees per test and report, NS1 antigen test for dengue, 1,200 rupees per test and report. This order has been in force since 29 July 2020, published in Gazette Extraordinary Number 2186/17. The CAA urged consumers to remain vigilant when obtaining these tests from private hospitals or laboratories. Patients are advised to always request an official bill or receipt for payments. If an institution charges above the prescribed maximum fee, complaints can be lodged with the CAA via the 1977 hotline, together with the receipt and any other evidence. The CAA emphasized that strict enforcement of these regulations is essential to protect patients from unfair pricing practices in the health sector.
Central Bank officials said that Sri Lanka's Employees Provident Fund has exited its investment in unlisted Canville Holdings Private Limited, absorbing its 5 billion rupee capital back into the fund after transferring its stake to the government as part of a restructuring plan.
The unlisted investment no longer appears in the retirement fund's investment documents after the transaction was finalized by the end of last year, allowing the EPF to redeploy the capital into other income-generating assets. The EPF, managed by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, had not earned returns on its investment in Canville Holdings, leading to the restructuring decision. Concerns have been raised that the EPF's yield is too low and keeping it under central bank management is a conflict of interest, as the agency also is charged with selling government debt and that it is a captive fund. An official from the central bank's EPF department explained that the fund entered an agreement during the government-led restructuring process to hand over its rights in Canwell Holdings. The Labour Department has also announced that public services related to the Employees Provident Fund database and digital EPF system will be unavailable on the 30th and 31st of July due to essential maintenance work on its computer system.
Sri Lanka police have issued a public warning over a growing number of financial scams in which fraudsters impersonate police officers and also government officials through fake social media profiles, stolen photographs and forged identity documents.
Police said they continue to receive numerous complaints from the public who have been deceived by scammers despite the arrest of several suspects and repeated public awareness campaigns.
According to police, recent investigations have revealed an increase in cyber-enabled financial fraud involving criminals who create fake WhatsApp, Telegram and other social media accounts while falsely claiming to represent Sri Lanka police, the Criminal Investigation Department, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and the government institutions. The scammers typically contact victims by telephone and falsely claim that their national identity card has been used to commit fraud, that bank accounts or credit cards have been opened in their name or that they are linked to money laundering or other criminal offences. Victims are then threatened with legal action and told that a confidential investigation is underway. To make the deception appear genuine, the fraudsters sent fake police identity cards, badges, official documents and photographs through WhatsApp and other messaging platforms. Police said victims are often instructed to disclose one-time passwords, banking credentials, passwords and other confidential information or are pressured into transferring money to unfamiliar bank accounts or purchasing cryptocurrencies. Police stressed that no government institutions or private organizations will request national identity card numbers, bank account details, debit or credit card information, PINs, passwords, CVV numbers or one-time passwords over the telephone or through social media platforms.
We're heading into a short commercial break. Equity market updates coming on the other side.
This is the Nightly Business Report.
Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. The Colombo Stock Exchange ended today's session on a positive note, with all share price index increasing 49.81 or 0.24% to close at 21,199.37. The S&P SL20 index also increased 13.25 or 0.22% to close at 5,945.87. The total amount of turnover amounted to 1.07 billion rupees, while the total share volume reached 37 million shares. The number of trades indicated 13,073. And with that, we have now Dilhari Dias joining us from First Capital Holdings to give us more.
Thank you, Vinod. Today we saw the positive sentiment from yesterday continuing in the Colombo bourse, with both the ASPI and S&P SL20 indices closing in the positive territory. There was very low retail participation in the market. However, due to high net worth investor participation, the turnover levels stood around 1.1 billion rupees, but it was below 37.7% compared to the monthly average turnover levels of 1.7 billion rupees. In terms of the sector contribution, we saw that the capital goods sector contributing with 29% of share to the turnover, and banking and food, beverage and tobacco sectors collectively contributed to around 36% of the total turnover. And also the net foreign outflow stood around 189 million rupees, with the largest foreign inflows attracted by Digital Mobility Solutions Lanka PLC, which is also known as PICMI, Ceylon Coal Stores PLC, Lanka Milk Foods and HNB Life PLC. The top price gainers for the day were Standard Capital PLC, Ramboda Falls PLC, Odell PLC, Carson Cumberbatch PLC and Tokyo Cement Company Lanka PLC. Also, the top positive contributors to the ASPI were Hatton National Bank PLC, Carson Cumberbatch PLC, Selinco Holdings PLC, National Development Bank PLC and Tokyo Cement Company Lanka PLC. The top price losers for the day were Bogawan Talawa Tea Estates PLC, PMF Finance PLC, the Fortress Resorts PLC, Merchant Bank of Sri Lanka and Finance PLC voting shares, and Renuka Holdings PLC non-voting shares. The top negative contributors to the ASPI index were John Keells Holdings PLC, Melstar Corp, Cargill Ceylon PLC, Haley's PLC, and Ceylon Beverage Holdings PLC. Thank you.
Excess liquidity in Sri Lanka's financial system continues to influence market dynamics, with surplus funds providing support to investor activity, while the Colombo Stock Exchange navigates positive sentiment. And with that, we now have Charit Gamage, Chief Economist from First Capital Holdings, to give more insight into current trends in excess liquidity in the market.
Thank you, Prasansa. The excess liquidity yesterday has risen to 175 billion, which is a highest level in 2 months before it's somewhat moderating towards 137 billion today. The recent past, we have seen there's a sharp decline in excess liquidity over the banking system, because that we can assume that central bank dollar sales has absorbed rupees from the market. In addition to that, we can also think that government foreign debt prepayments via CBSL also might have contributed to the drop in the excess liquidity over the past months. But with excess liquidity rising above 100 billion is a positive sign for the banking system, because it reduces the stress in the banking system, and it also supports the short-term interest rate. That means we can see some downside movements in the short-term interest rate because of this liquidity rise. So this increase in excess liquidity may reflect that central bank is restarting buying dollars from the market, and we can also think of that they might also have received some FX loans from foreign counterparts such as ADB that they have been expecting past months. So these flows ultimately results in like the rupee dollar conversions and additional rupees coming to the banking system. And one of the other things we may note is that the central bank is so cautious about rising excess liquidity. While they support the banking system, central bank continues to operate open market operations to absorb excess liquidity, preferably above 100 billion. This is because excess liquidity can contribute to the inflation, and it may go against central bank's inflation targets. So these are the things that we can see in the excess liquidity front, and thank you.
Gold prices were little changed today after touching a 2-week high in the previous session as investors weighed escalating tensions in the Middle East. Spot gold slipped 0.1% to $4,127.99 an ounce, while gold futures fell 0.5% to $4,130.62 an ounce. Investors have continued rebuilding gold positions despite the prospect of higher interest rates. Among other precious metals, spot silver rose 0.3% to $59.88 an ounce, while spot platinum gained 0.8% to $1,658.28 an ounce.
The Sri Lankan rupee marginally appreciated against US dollar today compared to yesterday. According to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the selling rate of the US dollar decreased to 340 rupees and 87 cents, while the buying rate also decreased. Now we can take a closer look at how the Sri Lankan rupee is performing against other major global currencies today. We are heading for a short commercial break.
This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report.
Dialog Axiata has expanded its digital payment ecosystem by partnering with Singer Sri Lanka, enabling customers to make payments using Dialog Pay at more than 420 Singer showrooms across the country.
The new partnership allows shoppers to pay securely and conveniently at Singer outlets.
Customers can buy a wide range of products including consumer electronics, home appliances, furniture, digital devices, kitchen appliances and agricultural machinery using Dialog Pay platform. Dialog says the collaboration is aimed at making digital payments more accessible while enhancing the overall retail experience through faster and safer transactions. The initiative also supports Sri Lanka's growing shift towards cashless payments and digital financial services. Singer Sri Lanka Chief Executive Officer Mahesh Vijayawardena said the partnership reflects the company's commitment to providing customers with greater convenience and modern payment options across its nationwide retail network. Meanwhile, Dialog Enterprise Chief Officer Navin Piris noted that expanding the Dialog Pay ecosystem through partnerships with leading retailers such as Singer will help accelerate the adoption of digital payments while delivering a seamless and secure payment experience for consumers. With more than 420 outlets now connected to Dialog Pay platform, the partnership marks another step in strengthening Sri Lanka's digital commerce landscape and promoting greater financial inclusion through technology-driven payment solutions.
Hemas Holdings plc is strengthening its focus on sustainability by making environmental, social and governance principles a central part of its business strategy. The company says sustainability is no longer viewed as a separate initiative but as a key factor in driving growth, managing risks and creating long-term value.
By the end of the financial year 2025-26, Hemas had helped collect 2.9 million kilograms of plastic waste from the environment, supporting its goal of achieving plastic neutrality by 2030. Under its Environmental Agenda 2030, the group is focusing on responsible plastic consumption, efficient use of natural resources, improved water management, and expanding renewable energy across its operations. Hemas is also expanding its sustainability efforts beyond environmental commitments through social impact programs. The company says its approach is based on using its business capabilities and resources to create social impact while maintaining commercial growth. Hemas believes that long-term business success and positive societal change can work together, with sustainability becoming a core discipline embedded across its operations.
Lanka Realty Investments plc has announced the sale of its entire stake in Onali Holdings plc to Lee Hedgers plc in a transaction valued at approximately 2.26 billion rupees.
According to a disclosure to the Colombo Stock Exchange, Lanka Realty sold its 44.63% shareholding to Onali Holdings, amounting to more than 22.6 million shares at a price of 100 rupees per share. The company said the sale forms part of its strategy to unlock shareholder value and optimize its investment portfolio. The transaction is also expected to strengthen Lanka Realty's financial position by generating significant cash proceeds. Following the acquisition, Lee Hedgers has become the majority shareholder of Onali Holdings, further expanding its investment portfolio. Lanka Realty stated that the disposal is expected to result in a substantial capital gain, which will be reflected in the company's financial statements for the current financial year.
Commercial Bank of Ceylon has emerged as Sri Lanka's most awarded bank at the 2026 Asian Banking and Finance Awards in Singapore, securing a total of 6 awards across 3 major banking categories. The awards recognize commercial bank's performance in retail banking, wholesale banking and corporate and investment banking, highlighting its achievements.
In the retail banking category, the bank was named Private Bank of the Year and SME Bank of the Year, recognizing its strong financial performance and continued support for Sri Lanka's small and medium enterprise sector. Commercial Bank also received awards for Sri Lanka Domestic AI Initiative of the Year and Green Financing Bank of the Year for its technology-driven credit solutions and commitment to sustainable financing. In the corporate and investment banking segment, the bank won Corporate Client Initiative of the Year for its TradeLink platform and Debt Deal of the Year for its 15 billion rupees green bond issued to support sustainability-linked projects. Commercial Bank Managing Director and CEO Sanath Manatunga said the recognition reflects the bank's focus on financial strength, customer relationships, digital innovation and sustainable growth. The bank said the awards reinforce its position as a leading financial institution in Sri Lanka with a growing focus on technology, green finance and delivering advanced banking solutions to customers.
A major share transaction involving the top management of Cargill's PLC has been disclosed to the Colombo Stock Exchange. According to the filing, Deputy Chairman and Group CEO V.R. Page, together with members of his immediate family, sold a combined 3.57 million ordinary shares on the 21st of July at 630 rupees per share.
The transactions were carried out by V.R. Page, his spouse P.R. Page, daughter L.R. Page and son V.R. Page Jr. Based on the disclosed price, the total value of the sale is estimated at around 2.25 billion rupees. The disclosure was made in accordance with the Colombo Stock Exchange's listing rules on directors' dealings and related party transactions, with the company stating that the notification was made under Section 202 of the Companies Act number 7 of 2007. The filing does not identify the buyer or buyers, explain how the shares were traded, or state the reason for the sale.
A short commercial break now. Global business updates right after this.
This is the Nightly Business Report.
Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report.
Most Asian stocks advanced today as optimism over another surge in artificial intelligence spending lifted semiconductor shares.
South Korea's Kospi outperformed regional peers, closing 4.4%. Japan's Nikkei 225 settled at 0.4% higher, while the broader topics index rose 0.5%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index traded 1.1% higher. China's Shanghai Composite and the blue chip Shanghai Shenzhen CSI 300 gained 0.2% each. India's Nifty 50 fell 0.5% by midday trading. New British Prime Minister Andy Burnham got an early boost in his efforts to ease the cost of living pressures as inflation fell to 2.6% in June. The record saw its lowest since March 2025, driven by cheaper petrol and after a brief de-escalation in the Iran war.
Every day think, well, what can we do?
New British Prime Minister Andy Burnham began his premiership with a brief boost, a slow in UK inflation. It cooled more than expected in June, driven by a fall in petrol prices after a short de-escalation in the Iran war. But for Burnham, who seeks to ease living costs, it may only be a temporary relief. Data showed consumer prices rose by 2.6% in annual terms in June, the weakest increase since March 2025, having slowed from 2.8% in May. June's inflation came in under forecasts as the war-related surge in energy prices eased off during the month the ceasefire began. However, since then the conflict has revived, pushing up energy costs. This leap in costs has had a big impact on Britain due to its reliance on imported natural gas. Inflation has mostly been above the Bank of England's 2% target over the past 5 years. And the central bank has said inflation is likely to rise to 3% in the third quarter. Wednesday's data showed inflation for services, closely watched by the BOE as a guide to underlying price pressures, slowed to 3.6% in June from 3.7% in May, but it was slightly stronger than forecasts. Looking ahead, investors expect the BOE to keep its benchmark interest rate at 3.75% next week, as it continues to assess the impact of the Middle East conflict.
BMW is recalling 318,495 vehicles in the United States after the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration identified a defect that could cause the engine starter to overheat and in extreme cases catch fire. The recall affects a range of models including the BMW 3 Series, 4 Series Coupe and convertible, X3, X4 and certain Toyota Supra vehicles.
The latest action follows a series of starter-related recalls by BMW this year in the US and other markets, as the automaker works to address potential fire risks linked to the component. The recall comes as a challenging time for the global automotive sector. BMW recently warned of weaker earnings and said it expects its global workforce to shrink to 5% through natural attrition as it accelerates cost-cutting measures amid slowing demand in China and rising geopolitical costs. In recent months, companies including General Motors and Stellantis have continued restructuring efforts in response to slowing electric vehicle demand, higher costs and increased competition, while suppliers across the industry are also streamlining operations. For affected BMW owners, however, the immediate focus is safety.
German prosecutors searched Deutsche Bank's Frankfurt headquarters as they investigate alleged fraudulent tax transactions at its Postbank division between 2008 and 2010.
German prosecutors searched Deutsche Bank's Frankfurt headquarters on Wednesday. They're investigating alleged fraudulent tax transactions at its Postbank division between 2008 and 2010. Germany's largest bank confirmed Düsseldorf prosecutors were at its offices in the German financial centre. The lender said in a statement, Deutsche Bank is being searched as a third party in this matter and we are cooperating fully. Düsseldorf prosecutors confirmed they'd conducted searches in Frankfurt and elsewhere, but they didn't comment further due to tax secrecy rules. A person familiar with the matter said the search involved so-called cum-cum trades. They added Postbank offices in Bonn were also searched. Cum-cum schemes involved trading in stocks of German companies around dividend payout days. Authorities said this was tax fraud. The transactions grew during the financial crisis and authorities estimated the state was stripped of billions. A years-long crackdown has since tried to get the money back. Prosecutors and Deutsche Bank declined to comment on the details of the investigation.
According to a new study released by Swift staffing company Adecco Group, artificial intelligence will transform the way people work, but it is not expected to cause a collapse in employment. Adecco says AI is changing tasks and job roles far more than replacing entire occupations.
CEO Dennis McWell said that some companies are using AI as a justification for layoffs that are actually driven by weaker business performance, restructuring, or broader cost-cutting measures. The report notes that more than 3 years after the launch of ChatGPT, employment across the 38 member countries of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development remains near record high, while unemployment is close to historic lows. However, Adecco warns that entry-level office jobs are among the most exposed to AI-driven change. Rather than eliminating junior positions, companies should redesign those roles so employees can work alongside AI while continuing to develop skills and build future leadership pipelines. The findings come as several global companies expand AI investments while reducing staff. Adecco says the key challenge is not replacing workers but preparing them. The company is calling for greater investment in upskilling, reskilling, and closer collaboration between businesses, governments, and education providers to ensure workers are equipped for an AI-driven economy.
Samsung Electronics has unveiled a new generation of foldable smartphones, introducing a wider passport-sized Galaxy Z Fold 8 while increasing prices across its premium foldable lineup amid rising memory chip cost. The new Galaxy Z Fold 8 features a larger display designed for video streaming and multitasking and is priced at $1,899.
Over 1,000 journalists and translators worldwide gathered at Old Billingsgate, a former fish market along the River Thames, overlooking London's iconic Tower Bridge, to have a peek of Samsung Electronics' Galaxy Unpacked event. The audience applauded as the Galaxy Z Fold 8 was unveiled. It looked like a passport with 5.5-inch cover screen with a 10:16 aspect ratio when folded. It could be switched to a 7.6-inch screen with a 4:3 aspect ratio when unfolded. Weighing only a little over 200 grams, the Galaxy Z Fold 8 is the lightest Galaxy Z Fold ever, while also offering better battery capacity. Samsung has also expanded its foldable smartphone lineup to 3 models, adding the Galaxy Z Fold 8 Ultra alongside the Fold 8 and Flip 8. The Fold 8 Ultra weighs only 215 grams, and it is just 4.1 millimeters thick when unfolded, making it the thinnest fold model the company has produced. Flip 8, designed for maximum portability, targets younger consumers with a focus on AI-powered experiences. Pre-orders for the Galaxy foldable smartphones and smartwatches will begin in South Korea on July 28th, followed by a global rollout starting August 7th.
Thank you for watching the Nightly Business Report on Other Derana News channel. Share events or media releases via email on business@derana.lk.
We will see you again tomorrow with the latest updates in the business world. I'll join you shortly with Other Derana Sports Central. I'm Vinod Varnasurya.
And I'm Prashansa Gunawardana. Thank you for watching and have a good night.